This is Nashville SIG Release Meetings for June 26, 2023. And what is the agenda?
Getting the release out.
Getting the release out this. Actually, no, Rado put something on there, so. Or maybe someone else did.
Yeah, I've put a little bit of update there.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead, Rado?
Yep. Sure, I'm just fighting with screen sharing. Just a sec.
Okay.
All right. Is the visibility okay?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So for overall sprint status, I really don't have any updates there. So let me just skip to the test bed. There are still a lot of things going on there. Main driving force behind it was Victor. So there's quite a lot of changes there. So that's good. Still, there are some failures in tests, but not really related to the testbed logic itself for most runs. I guess so. I think we're in a good shape
Okay.
on this one. As for code scanning and checking, I've pushed new images with some updates there, namely bumped the versions for scanning tools, and also I've moved some functionalities from the .pro YAML file in repository into the scripts in it itself, so it's not not cluttering the pro configuration with a long one-liners there. Also, the lichen test has been fixed, so it's now in all repositories that build the binary artifacts. It's enabled there. So if anyone feels like checking them out, they are still, I guess most of them, they are still open. So if you have some time, please review and merge them. For any particular repositories. So that's done. I fixed a small build problem. Where was this? Too much tabs open. So for KPD backstage plugins, added quick fix for failing builds for testing and linting. So that's the thing. Generally, when it comes to the artifact builds, we're good in the sense that we got our every commit builds running, producing images. So that's good. Last week I was actually working on the next steps, which some of them I guess would be good to have in the release, and some of them post R1 would be major points. So namely, I'm working now on automatically signing the images using cosign and generated keys. So there will be, I guess this is of course up for a discussion. That's just one of solutions, but it is kind of, cosign seems to be moving towards being industry standard. It's used quite frequently. And also the SBOM generation for images that we're producing. All of these artifacts will be stored in a Docker Hub for some time now. It supports storing their artifacts which are not only Docker images. And for that's, I guess, the after R1 point, but I'm also investigating the KO project for building our images, which is pretty cool. It actually works without Dockerfile. So I've built all our repositories images with it, and they all build correctly. So it's based on a chain guard, very small image that basically has all the required files just to start the statically linked binary there. So this, of course, will need some testing, but it will remove, I guess, one step in development. So the Docker file would be basically optional to create the images. Two cool functionalities for it. So first of all, it automatically generates SBOM and pushes it to Docker Hub or GCR or whatever repository is to be used. Yeah, it builds pretty nifty small images without needing of a Docker file itself. Yeah, that's basically all what I've got for updates for.
Which tool is this, Rado?
Sorry?
Which tool is this to build?
KO. It's I guess it's a Google project, but let me see. KO.
Okay.
So that's it. It has a separate page for some time now. It is pretty cool thing. The additional value is that it generates the SBOM automatically, so we don't have to use the next step in pipeline like Sift or whatever to generate the SBOM for you. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It is basically a single binary, and you can use it like on a Mac OS or Linux or something. You don't need the Docker install to build the image. Also, you don't need a Docker to push this image even to Docker Hub. There is a KO login command which you can use to log into repository and then push images with it. So you don't really have to even have a Docker install on a machine, which I find it pretty useful, especially that I'm always lacking disk space on my main
I agree.
development machine. So and on macOS, whichever Docker implementation you're using, you're basically ending up with like a huge virtual machine for providing the Linux kernel functionality needed for by Docker. So last time I've checked, it was like 25 gigs or something of a disk space. And KO is like 2 megs or something. So definitely project worth looking into. So I've built all the binaries that we're producing from my repositories. I've pushed the images to my Docker Hub, just not to make a mess on the Nephew one. But I mean, they seem to work fine. It's basically doing the same thing that we're doing right now, just a bit swifter. So I guess that would be a good builder to migrate, possibly after one for our builds. So for now, I guess we can do SBOMs and signing with just separate steps in a pipelines. So I'm working on it. Should be ready, hopefully in 2-3 days. And yeah, that's what I got for today from my updates.
Okay. Thank you, Rado. So I guess we will take the opportunity to talk about what still needs to be done for the release.
Yes, maybe that's a good thing.
Hey, actually,
Before the Wednesday SIG 2 meeting, which would probably be too late. But
Is
I
it?
think we forgot to record. Oh no, it's recording. Never mind.
it's already recording, I think.
Yeah, never mind.
So do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, Wim. Yeah, you
Maybe. Okay, so let's maybe talk. I think there is two major items. So one is our dependency management, right? So that's one. So so we have so what did we do, right? So we created a new dependency. So we created two new CRDs, right? One is the dependency CRD, and the second one is the config reference, right? CRD that you did, right? So I updated the SMF package to include the dependency CRD. So that is done. What we haven't done, John, is tagging them, I think, because I've been looking my private packages, but so the PR, wait a minute, so let me have a look at the PR.
So when we run the EDE right now, it's not using, okay, if you didn't tag them. I can.
It's not, yeah, I don't think, yeah, so that's the thing that I did not do, I think, tagging them. The question is, Steven, do we also need it for AMF?
Yeah. So they need something very light. So they need a list of DNNs on the config. But then, since we already have the infrastructure, to include UPF deployment, there's no reason not to just reuse it.
Yeah. So that what has not been done is I
haven't even done it on the operator side yet, and then on ping me on the weekend saying that we wanted to do something. So I said if you're interested, you can look at my PR, and it's basically almost the same thing.
Okay, because so what has to happen is update the AMF package as well with the dependency CRD.
With the UPF, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm gonna do that after this call. Start on it.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe we should wait to update the AMF package until we are done here, right?
Yeah, we have to do some simple integration. So now what you do is all the associated SMF, AMFs, and UPF packages, you're using the same PBS name or something, right? To make them associate with each other. So we have to test that end to end a little bit.
Yeah, I tested. So what I did is I had the AMF package, right, which had the the SMF package which had the dependency CR in it, and then I did not schedule the UPF, so it easily was waiting forever. And then I scheduled the UPF, and then from the moment they appear, if the conditions of the UPF are okay, it started to generate the UPF and then generated the SMF config with the reference and stuff like that to be applied to the cluster. So I didn't test the workload cluster, but I tested the fact that they were generated and that the SMF config was including them inside of the SMF deployment. So that's what I tested.
So then
now we can, sorry.
Yeah, so then the SMF has a readiness gate, so it doesn't go ready until, okay, so then so what I'm wondering about is the automated approval, right? It's gonna wait, it only approves the first draft, right? The first completed draft.
Yes.
But it sounds like that's
you don't approve if there's conditions anyway, right? So
it won't approve if there's readiness gates that aren't met. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the meantime, John, I added this specialization readiness gate.
Yes, I saw that, right? Yeah.
So that is being set.
Good.
So
good.
When specialization runs, this is set, and this is not set to true unless everything is okay. So that's what happens.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so adding it on the AMF doesn't harm because basically, okay, the only problem is that it will take way longer to complete because it's actually better in the scripts to reverse the order of UPF and
Yeah.
AMF SMF because
Yeah.
it will
yes.
speed things up basically.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can't.
let's do
we have to do
you do UPF first. UPF has no dependencies.
we actually can't do, I think the way the scripts are right now, we deploy the AMF and the SMF, and then we wait for them to be ready, and then we deploy the UPF, and they'll never get ready. So we'll
Oh,
have
yeah.
to.
Oh, well. Okay.
Yes. So yeah, so in other words, we can add the AMF change as well because as long as the operator doesn't do or use it, it doesn't harm. It just will take way longer, depending on how we schedule it.
Mhm.
But it doesn't harm because if the operator doesn't
Yeah.
take it
It's
into
there.
account, it will be there and then it will not do
Yeah.
anything. I also created a new FreeFive.gc, so I added the CRD, the config CRD in the FreeFive.gc operator. So that's also merged, I think. So that the CRD is installed on the workload cluster. Otherwise,
you make the changes on packages, right? So,
yeah, config sync
Okay.
will
So
not.
the packages, so the packages that need to be tagged and that tagged and then that tag force pushed is the example BP packages for all three or for whatever ones have been changed.
For SMF
And-
is changed, AMF needs to be changed. I can do that after this call if you want,
Okay.
unless someone else wants to do it. If not, I will do it. And then the operator, the FreeFive.gc operator has changed because with the CRD, I added the CRD for the installation, for the config.
And that's been built and that gets built and pushed automatically when it gets merged, when the code. Oh, you're saying you add the CRD to the package, no changes to the.
yeah, the FreeFive.gc code is not changed.
Okay.
The operator is not changed neither. Yeah,
You just added it so that it's available in the workload cluster.
it'll be changed again actually after on does his her things.
Okay, all right. So yeah, as soon as the call's done, as soon as you're done with that AMF one, we can do that. Sweet, that sounds awesome. Then we have the.
Now then that's dependency. Then there is the second thing is about all the connectivity and all the networking stuff like that. So I started on Friday testing, so then it didn't work. I said, what the hell is going on? So turns out that first of all, the NED was doing the wrong VLAN tagging. I mean, we added the VLAN somewhere in the CNI, and then, but it actually you have to tag it as part of the master interface. So in the meantime, I've done the changes. So I discovered a bunch of things.
Oh, the CNI doesn't do it automatically. I thought you passed the VLAN on an NAD, and then they would. I would assume the IP VLAN or MAC VLAN would be tagging it directly.
No, that's not how it works. So that's also I actually I knew it, but I forgot about it. But so what you have to do is you have to prepare the host originally for the VLAN tagged interface, and then the IP VLAN and MAC VLAN or bridge, all of them act the same.
They just route it to the right guy, and the actual kernel driver does the work.
They don't
Yeah,
form
so
the actual VLAN
Yes.
interface. So
So I created it.
Yeah. Sorry, I think there was a project. Well, we have the things to do. Anyway, that'll be on our two thing, plumbing those interfaces automatically.
I mean, it's fairly easy to do because we know the VLAN ahead of time. We can. The thing is, we actually have to create a CRD, I think, to put it in there, and then an operator that takes it and configures. But you have to do it on the host, right? So it's like you need to metadmin. Actually, I have something that does it more or less, but yeah, I thought. Okay.
So basically, once you allocated VLANs, you have to identify the host where this is going to be scheduled, and then you have to tag on the host master interface. Wow.
So there is multiple approaches here. One is you do it ahead of time, and you know that you're going to be scheduled, right? So then you just create it on all the hosts, right?
Is this a special case of something that will happen a lot with a lot of NS in different scenarios? I know we probably have to fix it in R1 in the quickest way, But it's probably
So-
something.
If you use
I think we have-
SRIV, you don't have this problem. It's only
Okay.
when you use IP VLAN or MAC VLAN or Bridge.
Oh, 'cause
Anything that
SRIV
passes through the
doesn't-
kernel. Yeah.
It doesn't use the, okay.
No, the VLAN gets automatically assigned with the CNI because it's happening on the virtual functions, right?
Right.
So the SRIV does it
Well,
automatically.
SRI doesn't even touch the kernel, so it doesn't really matter in that case. So
Yes,
the Mac chip
Exactly.
has to do it in that case.
It
yeah.
doesn't use the kernel to do it.
The NIC
So,
has to do it.
it sounds like we have that problem, a workaround for that, a script already.
Yes.
And then
So
the
I
last is-
asked Victor to include it. I give a bit of a prototype because I'm doing many things in parallel. So I
Yeah.
asked Victor to put it. I put something that basically prints it out and you have to apply it. But there were some things I said, so Victor, can you take care of it? I don't know
Yeah,
whether he's
yeah,
on the call.
And Victor is here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you. I just came late. Yeah, I will take a look and I will try to include it as part of the end-to-end testing.
Yeah, so what I did right now is the script based. By the way, there's a bug in the script, Victor. There's 2 times 3 VLAN 3. I think it should be 3 and 4, and I think I just saw that.
Okay.
But it just prints it out, and then you have to manually apply. But we should put it. Yeah, so we should automatically apply it. But yeah, so that's one. Then there is an open PR. So there is a not. So I had to do a change in the not function. Actually, 2 changes. One is that the VLAN tagging was done wrongly, and then secondly, the other thing that I saw is that the return traffic from the 35GC has to be put on the right interface, right? So in other words, so I added this routing thing into the NAD that it adds the specific routes for the specific interfaces to get the return traffic, because now we are routing between, for example, AMF and UPF. No, actually, between SMF and UPF will be on a different cluster. So we route between them.
You're paying from UPF to SMF or the other way, or SMF to UPF.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But the problem is that they are on. So the subnet that so there is a default. Yeah, so that there's a default route in the SMF and the UPF, right, which points to the default CNI, right? But this subnet is behind the N4 interface.
Oh, okay.
You see, so what I did is so that's a conversation that we are having, John, on the networks, right? So the information is available for us in the networks because they have all the prefixes per route.
So one thing I was wondering, I guess I was thinking that yeah, I guess it's the way the gateways are set. Like, I guess I was imagining that part of that container lab thing would do the routing between segments on the same layer 3, and that we would we wouldn't have to put static routes in. That
Yeah. So why do we have to propagate that all the way up to
upstream on that?
So
the
main reason. So okay, so there is a
because the route is not in the routing table, and then the pod basically routed to the default interface, because the default route is on
right.
It's on the Kubernetes interface. Yeah.
Because it's a different segment, it's a different subnet. It's not
Yeah.
going to route it based on the gateway. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, in Nokia, we have virtual routers, right, for every interface. So in other words, you just add a default and it's fine on every virtual router. But here, I have my view of if I look to the routing stack, they are one big routing stack. So now we have to segment the route. So in other words, what you normally do is you just inject the default and you're fine. So
Right.
anything that you don't know, you put out. But here, the 35GC seems to be one big routing
It just
context.
uses one routing table. Yeah.
Yes, and so in other words, we now have to make sure that every packet goes to the right interface based on the route, the prefix that is set. So that's the issue.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so what I was wondering, the last thing I put in the chat was, so we have a network package that defines all the prefixes. Does it define, but are the per cluster prefixes in that network package, or are they allocated? Like, do we have like a /16 and we allocate /24s out of it, or is it more like we have we pre-configure each cluster's?
No, it's the first one. So it's basically you take a /16 or whatever prefix you want, and then you start allocating from it, right? So, but what I do in the NAD, I only need to supernet, so I don't care the interface, because the router so the thing in the middle will do the routing.
Right.
So that is configured with containers. So there's an operator that basically pushes the config. So basically, what is the problem is that, let's say the SMF have two interfaces, default, and so there's a default route to the default CNI, and then there is the subnet for N4 basically, right? And he has a local subnet which is a /24 out of a /16.
He doesn't have.
But he needs to go to the UPF, which has a different /24 out of the same /16.
Right.
So if I don't inject that route, that /16, what will happen is he will send the traffic back to the default interface. And so what I'm doing right now is I take the supernet, so sometimes you have even more than one supernet, because we can do IPv4 and IPv6 and blah 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 blah.
Right,
But so what I do is I inject all of these that are in the network. In the network defined, I just inject them as a route, additional route into the interface. That's basically what I'm doing.
So this is a little bit better than what I was last imagining. So we still have those summary routes effectively we have like a static set of summary routes for each network, for each VPC. So if we were to, we could use the config injection at that point, because we do know upfront how many VPCs we have. We know how many. We don't need to, it's not a per cluster thing. It's a summary route for the entire VPC. So it would seem.
Yes, but there's multiple VPCs. So the problem is a network function can be attached to multiple of them, but you know them ahead of time somehow.
Which ones you're attaching to, right? Because
sure.
you're creating the NADs for them. So at that point, it's just another piece of information. You're already embedding that knowledge into the package that it needs to attach to this VPC and that VPC. So now we're just saying we also need the summary routes for those.
And then for UPF N3, N6, would imagine UPF take care of that, or do we have to also wire them? Because the UEs coming in has the IP addresses, right?
Yeah, so for the UE pool is a bit different, right? Because that's the other direction.
Yeah. Well, and then DN is another one, but DN is not necessarily going to a subnet, right? Doesn't even go into a particular.
Yeah. So the DNN pool is the opposite way, because here we have to have the subnet, we have to route to the specific UPF, right? That I haven't done yet, but so that is the other direction there, because we split the pool into two, and then we have to route to the right one back. But yeah, John, I mean, you could statically inject. Them based on the knowledge and do it like that. That's why, I mean, yeah, it's automation. The automation is nice in my view, because then human can make a mistake, basically.
But wouldn't we? Yeah, but we're already. Yeah. I mean, so there's two different. There's where the knowledge lives, right? Like, is this about the composition of a package? Like, if you build it into a specializer, then that specializer has sort of a tie to how we're provisioning networks, which is fine.
So there's two ways to there's multiple ways to solve this. One way to solve this is you just take every network that lives into the cluster and you just inject it, and the specializer will figure out the right one to pick, right? So maybe not ideal, but that's one way of doing it. You just pick all networks, and he will figure out which one is relevant. So that's one way of doing it, right?
Right.
Wait. So the first thing to do it is, like you said, is you use the injector, right? The thing with the injector is,
So if you do the injector, then the user is kind of having to configure both create create an interface saying I want to attach to this network and create an injection configuration to say inject information about that network, as opposed to just having to do it once, is what you're saying.
Correct.
So I'm okay, let's do it in the specializer because it's already a specializer that knows about networks, right? It already knows that's what it's doing. It's IPAM requests based on those networks, right?
Yeah. So we could do something very rudimentary without too much knowledge, which basically says all the networks I just inject, right? So that's one. Then you could do a smarter way to say, okay, I only connected to these networks, so I only inject these into it. So then you need some more knowledge. But these are the three different options that you have. I was actually looking initially at the injector from the package variants. But okay, what I did for the dependency thing that with Steven, basically it's almost the same. It's almost done. The only difference is what I didn't like is that at the moment, and we have to optimize that after I post R1, is that right now I hard code it to encapsulate it into this config CRD.
Yeah.
And this is just another variant of this. Wait, so there is two variations here. One is, in this case, you could say, do I get it from the package or do I get it from the API server? Right now for the UPF, I get it from the package, right?
But you could, well, ultimately, yes. So, okay, so let's so the reality is let's do what's most expedient, right? Like let's just, and right, this is why we have R1 and R2 and R3 and R4 is to improve each time. So we're on Monday. We've got 3 days left. So whatever is quickest and easiest, I suggest we do that, and we create an issue that says we're not thrilled with the way we did this, like we did with package variant, right? We've already got a new version of that we want to do, so we'll take this into consideration. We'll take into consideration what you've already implemented, and we'll see if there's one primitive that can handle all these or not, or multiple primitives that make more sense. So, yeah, whatever.
There is another. That is even a more rudimentary way of doing it. Like I'm testing it right now, is I just put all the network CRDs also in the EMF package by default from the beginning. That's the zero effort approach. We don't have to do anything, because personally, I think the binding thing that you have is for me the right way to solve it.
That will solve it, but we don't have that
properly,
yet.
right?
So that's fine. We could just do that and say, this is a temporary workaround until we have a better mechanism here. This is why we're doing it, right? Is to learn discover these problems.
I said that's the most rudimentary. So let me. Okay, I want to do this UA round sim thing right now. So I'll do let's see where I'm getting. But tomorrow, normally it should be fairly quick, right? But tomorrow either I put it into the I take one of them, right? So I'll do one of them and then But I think for me the way forward is the binding thing is the right solution here in my view.
Yeah, and I think there's still some iteration we want to do on that design, but I think and this would inform it, right? As well as the dependence, like all of these things should inform it, and we may have multiple things here or one thing here, I don't know. Okay, so
so where were we? Let's maybe take a step back. So so I'll do something what I can do right now, given that I'm touching AMF and SMF anyhow, I can already include the network CRDs in there. And then we have already, that's out of the way. And then if we can optimize it, that's an optimization already, right? So maybe let's do that because then that's gone, right?
Yeah. So you're putting it into the package, or
yes?
Okay.
I'll put it.
But you're not putting it into the AMF deployment or SMF deployment stuff, right? Because
no, it will not come down because
because NF operator obviously doesn't do anything with
the NAD function. Basically,
we actually don't do anything with NAD anymore right now. So we annotate with just a name, right? Right now.
Yeah, I think
yes. But the NAD that is applied to the cluster has the routes in it, and it will inject. I mean, I've tested this already. So it injects the routes into the so that your return traffic is right.
Currently, this is fully resolved by the specializers. So we don't have to do anything.
It will still be.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Basically, the NAD function will now take these networks and add those static routes to the NAD configuration, and you'll apply it just like before. Nothing changes for the workload cluster.
Oh no,
side.
yeah, it's just a name. It's just a that name for us. The
Yeah.
annotation.
And the name is the
just
same. You don't see the difference. You don't see there's
Yeah.
just more parameters, but you will, you will. It will happen for you. The CNI takes care.
When we launched, we had an ambition of running Bird as a sidecar next to next to
Yes.
the 35GC things, and then be able to inject routes on the pod that way. But then,
That would be
that's
easier,
obviously-
by the way. It would have
It
been
would be
easier,
it would be
but
more realistic because we have the BGP fields already on the CLD, but then
Yes.
obviously it's very far away from getting that.
yes.
R2.
So yes. So what do we need to do here is we need to merge the not PR. I've tested that, so I think this should be fine. So there is a
Okay.
PR in Nephew. There is a script that Victor is. There is another package, by the way, John, that I added this morning, which applies the config to the container, to the container lab. So there is a package. So there is an
Oh, okay.
operator. We just have to, we can put that anywhere. So when I install it myself, this thing, from the moment you do the installation, I just apply it to the cluster. But I added a package
This runs in the,
on the management cluster at the moment.
but if it's a container lab, does it have to run everywhere or does it just have to run on the management?
No, just on the management cluster because it basically applies the config to the container image that connects all the clusters.
Okay. I see. It's
And
a
it
virtual
puts
router.
all the subnets correct. It's a virtual router, correct, and with all the config. So that's the script. That's that. And then there was one more PR, Rado, that is in the infra that I did. That is open, I think, right now. Let me see.
On
It is- it is the-
22 or what 24?
Wait, let me check.
It is a PR that Bish is reviewing.
Yes, he gave LGTM, I think.
Yeah, that's I got one question about this one. There is a hard
Yes.
code FQD in there, srl.nokia.com. Can you change it to something more generic so we're not using like a copyrighted name there? If it's not, I guess it's not a requirement, right?
The problem is the
FQD.
code. So there is a provider that sits underneath that is specific. So the provider that you put, so there will be Cisco or Arista or whatever, right? So that's why the name is there.
It's for your Nokia's virtual router software.
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah, for container
That's
lab needs
correct.
to run some sort of backend, and I guess right now
Yeah.
Vim only tested it with the Nokia virtual router backend.
Yeah, but the idea is that this thing will be. So I actually have something working also with Arista and stuff like that. So you can change this to other vendors. So that's why. So and the provider tells you which vendor you are connected to.
Nothing open like OVS or something.
The problem is that you don't have the BGP stack and stuff like that in there. Right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's why we did this, I think.
Is the Nokia virtual router open source or is it?
Yes, yeah, it's fully open. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's okay from a.
I was planning to do a review of the PR. My major point was about the instruction that you have for Docker to get the IP address. I was thinking to use like kubectl to get the IP address, but yeah, probably it's not a major.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. The thing is that you need to have the IP to be able to connect to it. So that's the only thing that is needed. So I just do Docker inspect, but if there is a better way to do it, that's also fine. Because that image is.
I know that Bish eventually is planning to put like some efforts in using Podman, so if we can avoid to use Docker directly. But I mean, it's not a major roadblock, so we can just approve it for now. Maybe we can approve later.
Now, what I'm working on, I mean, for me, the way forward is that this thing should completely disappear at the end of the day, because my plan is to spin up the containers from an operator. So you basically don't. Yeah. So basically, that was the workaround because we said we go static. But the whole plan for me is to go completely dynamic, and then this thing is gone because then you already know the IP. from that operator. So you don't have to do this, but this is just a workaround because of the static nature that we have right now.
Yep, agree.
But yeah, so yeah, and then you don't even have to do this anymore. So there's a few things in that network space that today are there because of the fact that we didn't do the full dynamic stuff. So, and then, yeah, so that's basically it. The only other thing that I'm still doing, I'm actually busy with right now, is that Eric and Piotr pointed out to me last week that N3 and N2 need to be on a set dedicated subnet for the UA run sim. So I'm just testing that. So there is some packages that also, there is some interface things that need to be changed. So I'm just testing that to make sure that that all works.
Same subnet, N2 and N3 on the same subnet?
No, on a different one.
Different ones.
So at the moment, VPC run only has.
Yeah, one is control plane, the other one is data.
Yeah, but at the moment, our packages didn't do that.
Okay.
So I'm adding that and testing it. So that's the only thing. And then the other thing is that the UA run sim package, I don't know whether we have to do that, but what Eric and Piotr said is that today those IPs that in the UA run sim package are completely not aligned with anything we do.
Yeah, no. Danny's also pointed that out. Like, yeah, we have to manually put it in. Yeah.
So we either manually or we do a small specializer because we can reuse a lot of the stuff that we did. Because basically, if you look to the UA run sim, it creates an NED. It has an NED.
Okay.
So the question would be whether we need a specializer or whether we can do it just with existing primitives and functions or existing specializers.
Yeah, existing specializer. So everything is, so I looked at it 2 hours ago. I think we can use existing specializer, except for one thing is that, so in the Free5GC, the operator, the Free5GC operator takes UPF deployment, SMF deployment, and so on, and creates a deployment out of it.
Right.
Here, the deployment is in the package. So there would be one special specializer that you need to do is that specializer deployment with the NEDs directly inside of the package. That's the only difference. So that's the only thing that is specific.
Function then, or it's just taking information with it that's already in the package? Like
yeah, so
NED?
it would be a function. It would be a function indeed. So basically we take, so what would happen is we create interfaces for N2 and N3 of the UA run sim. We create from there NED. So that's all the stuff that we have, right? So
we just need to do the annotation in the deployment.
Correct. So the difference is that rather than doing SMF deployment and UPF deployment as we did for Free5GC, here we have to maybe.
But don't we already know what is it? Does the the annotation needs the full content of the NAD?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're generating a
even
a function that copies that from the
into
NAD
the deployment.
Yeah, so even for me, SMF, there's one piece that I haven't really done anything on. If the UE routing piece, so you need to maybe propagate the a UE routing path that goes into a particular IP address on the data network. So if you created a simulated GNOB, we have to know what UPF it passes through to which
in the UA run sim. In the UA run sim.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see anything in terms of a UE IP. So if you set up some IP, yeah, I would have to check to see where I'm supposed to configure that. So
but is it not coming out of the pool somehow?
It should come out. Should be assigned by the. It should be assigned by UPF, right? So
what I saw in the package is we have an IP for N2 and an IP for N3, and we have AMF. That's what you have to configure.
Yes, so that's a given. But then the other thing is the UE routing configurations on SMF. So I just wonder how much information needs to be propagated into that.
I don't know that.
Yeah. I mean, the Piotr gave a much more elaborate sample config. So I don't think our topology would be that difficult yet. But yeah.
Okay, so then what's the plan? You're gonna, what's the plan, Wim, for what you're going to do? Because I'm trying to figure out where I can jump in right now, having come back. It sounds
Okay.
like most things are underway. I can jump in on documentation. I can jump in on tagging those things and testing it. Like where should I jump in?
So one is putting it probably together of like an independent person, because at the moment, like
Yeah.
last week, it was basically Steven and myself mainly who has been, we were coding and then I was testing. So what we haven't done is putting the end-to-end together. So that I would
Yeah.
basically do that.
Once you tell me I can tag those, I will tag them all, and then I will run the EDE again, because right now it died, partway through, probably because it doesn't have any of these fixes, right? So
I think right
So-
now it will die because of NAD. I think I compiled a version, so you need a script to create the interfaces. That's what Sagar also had. It's my bad, I think. The NAD at the moment with the changes that I did, right? I basically I built an image, and now it requires you that the interfaces are provisioned on the cluster. Otherwise, the plumbing, the containers don't come up. I think that's the issue that we have right now.
yeah, the AMF wouldn't come up, is where it
Yes,
died.
and that's because the link doesn't come up because that interface is not existing on the cluster. I think that's the reason.
Okay. So there's some PRs to merge and some tagging to do.
I can do the list of all the. Maybe I'll run
Okay.
down a list of everything that needs to happen somehow, or
Okay,
at least
perfect. Yeah.
And then we can take it from there. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll
awesome.
probably update first the AMF and SMF and UPF with all this network stuff.
Okay.
Because then at least that's out of the way, and if we do something
Yes.
more optimal, then
And then I can tag all those packages, and we'll be to the next layer.
yes, and then and then so I think the next thing will be testing the dependency, whether that works end to end,
Okay.
and then it's about connectivity, right? So then it's checking the whole, testing this whole thing together.
Okay. Awesome.
So
Okay.
I hope we are almost there.
Yes.
There's still a lot to do, but
Yes. Well, yeah. Sounds like you guys got a lot of stuff done over the last week, so it's awesome. But we
Yeah, at least,
definitely need.
hopefully we can see PFCP packets thrown in between SMF and UPF.
yes.
Tomorrow, basically. Otherwise, we probably don't have a chance to do a call before Thursday.
Yeah, we really need
Yeah.
to put this on Thursday then. So I want to check out. I know a bunch of work's been done on that documentation too, so I'm going to try and check that out today and see where things are.
Yeah.
I missed that. Did we decide to have a call tomorrow or not?
It was suggested on Slack, so I can set up calls. I'll reuse the normal Wednesday.
The
thing.
9 a.m. slot is taken by SIG1.
Yes.
6-1.
If you're very interested in Zana talking,
Well,
that's at 9. That's at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not putting you on the spot and saying that you're not interested. You publicly say that you're not interested. But
Do we want to do 8:30?
Or later is for me also fine.
I mean, later is easy for those of us in California, but for everyone else, I'm not sure how easy that is. I know for you, for me, for you. it might
Corrado,
work.
Denny's, and all the other guys would be quite difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. I mean, either way.
What?
When
8:30
we know already that he doesn't care.
He doesn't sleep.
That's not true.
He sleeps at least 3 hours a day. Okay. So wasn't clear to me. So 8:30 works for people, or okay. Then I'll set that up 8:30 tomorrow, but then we'll do the normal 9 o'clock Wednesday call.
Yes.
And then Thursday, I guess we can do 9 o'clock also, just to keep the regular.
Right before the 10 a.m. TSC.
Oh,
Thursday is
okay.
the
So we have to prepare the presentation for that too, so.
That
okay.
reminds me of ONE Summit. We have to work until like the minutes before the workshop.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is the right place to have the most up-to-date Zoom call number? Like, I keep receiving like 3 calendar invite from somewhere from the system. Like every time it reminds me, I click it, it's all invalid or waiting for the host to join. And then I go to nephew calendar, it says go to see the description, and there's no description. And I have to go to the wiki of our group to see the link. Can you be
Mhm.
just like calendar invite to our mailbox? It's easier. And
So-
the other thing, I cannot
Now-
delete those calendar
I mean,
invite.
so most of the old things we cannot delete neither. It's an RFX stuff.
Yeah, like it's so confusing when you're driving. It's just so hard to find the right Zoom link. Because
The
well,
least,
for
the,
some reason, it just confused me. I clicked that one, and,
the
annoying.
least worst one that I find is to actually subscribe to the calendar on lists.nephew.org. And at least if it's in there for more than 24 hours, in my Outlook anyway, it seems to, I think Google Calendar is the same. At least anything that's more than 24 hours old seems to be okay-ish.
Yeah.
Now there's some
Ish.
meetings, yeah. There's a workload cluster one there tomorrow that I know isn't happening at 4 p.m. my time, which would be 8 a.m. in California. Maybe I don't know, Vim. I think you set those up. But look,
I'll set those up.
I mean, there's another thing after R1 would be the most challenging thing would be to sort out the calendar. But it's crazy, but
The other thing that we can use is like, I guess Slack has a reminder, so maybe we can use that feature too. And every single.
Yeah, I mean, the ones from, anything from LFX, Tina, is only the TSC uses LFX, as far as I know. None of our other SIGs use LFX because it's one of the main causes of all this chaos.
Yes.
So the groups.io calendar, if you subscribe to that should be the accurate calendar. But you may have old calendar entries you need to delete off your local calendar. If you copied them to your local calendar.
Yeah, I manually deleted. It came back every time I deleted it.
Ugh, I don't know what, you have to reach out to Lucy, I think.
I did, and Lucy says she doesn't have rights either.
yeah,
That's also true, actually, it turns out. I remember asking her about that, and just only some IT guy can do it, and then the IT guy said it's not doable or something. So yeah.
the other annoying thing on that is that the SIG1 documents, a lot of the time I get not accessible on those. I don't know why, but so I ended up actually having to play a Zoom video back and take screenshots of slides and things like that, which is anyhow, that's my bugbear out of the way.
Well, maybe we can try and see what we can do about that after R1 is out. See if we can get more.
Yeah, I've been just pushing up a bit of documentation stuff in between times. There's one really detailed one going up. But what I want to do is try and do a kind of a more high-level document, a set of documents on this, on how everything works together. Once I've gone through all this, but you'll see where I'm going if you have a look at that. But
Okay,
it doesn't have to be ready for R1, but hopefully the week or two after. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, thank you.
I just have one quick I don't know, notice. I was just doing some testing with the end-to-end. Most of the cases using 8 cores is not good enough for running the end-to-end. So at least for the CI, I just increased it to 16. So maybe we eventually have to reconsider and put it like on all the documentation, and because 8 is so low, and yeah, the speeds are getting crazy. So
I'd like to get it lower. Like we did cut back on all the machine. I'm not sure if the management cluster might still have 3 machines. Maybe we can reduce that one too.
Yeah, I prefer like going that path, like because if we keep increasing the resources, we're going to limit the number of users.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes it a lot harder.
Yeah.
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 On the last thing, John, maybe it's a sort of hack for you. I just enabled the GC background provider, so you can use background to provision GC virtual machine fully end to end. I mean, so basically, once that you have installed configured, it's just background up using that provider, and that is going to create like a virtual machine in GC. I can point you later.
Using T-Cloud directly, you're saying.
Yeah, point you later to the PR, but that's a nice thing. Especially now that I'm just I don't have enough resources in my local computer, so I have to rely on any external provider.
Right. Right.
And was just that.
Okay. Well, we're on time, so thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Back
everyone.
to the
See you guys.
keyboard.
Yeah, see you guys
Later.
tomorrow, I guess.
Yes.
Once John set it up.